They said Filipino English would never be recognized on a global stage. But today, it's quietly shaping how millions of Americans speak, watch, and even teach English across their screens every single day. You might not notice it at first, but the influence is everywhere. National newsrooms, social media anchors, and even AI voice assistants. The sound of clarity, confidence, and warmth that once felt uniquely Filipino is becoming a new voice of global communication. How did an accent that grew in the islands of Southeast Asia become a trusted tone in American news and media? Let's find out. The story stretches more than a century back. When the United States colonized the Philippines in the early 1900s, they didn't just bring military presence, they brought language. Schools across the archipelago started teaching English not merely as a subject, but as a way of life. It became the medium for science, history, literature, government, and everyday exchange. Within a few generations, the Philippines became one of the most English-fluent countries in the world. But something special happened along the way. Filipinos didn't just copy American English, they made it their own. Filipino English carries a rhythm and clarity that makes it stand out, polite yet confident, warm yet professional. There's a sincerity in how words are enunciated, a calm pacing that's easy to listen to and remarkably clear. In a world where communication happens at lightning speed, clarity is power. That's why Filipino English began attracting global attention. It wasn't an overnight shift. It was a steady rise built on education, media, and millions of everyday conversations. In the early 2000s, American companies outsourced customer service to the Philippines. What they discovered surprised even them. Many American callers preferred Filipino agents. The tone was calm, friendly, and easy to understand. These weren't just English speakers. They were listeners, people who made callers feel heard, respected, and valued. The very qualities that diffuse frustration over a billing issue are the same ones that make a news anchor trustworthy. Clarity, connection, and a voice that treats you like you matter. And so, the global reputation of Filipino English shifted from competent to ideal. As years passed, the Philippines became a hub for voice-based industries. Radio producers, podcasters, and online educators began collaborating with Filipino voice artists because they offered something unique. Delivery that felt global, neutral, and emotionally balanced. This wasn't about imitating one country's standard. It was about finding a tone that traveled well across borders. Turn on a random American news segment today and you might notice it. The delivery, the pacing, the way certain words land, it feels familiar. Even anchors who've never visited the Philippines are leaning into this smooth, measured tone. Why? Because media rewards voices that speak clearly to everyone. Listen to how certain words are handled in this style. The pacing is measured. The syllables are clean. Words like schedule, research, and data aren't thrown away. They're shaped. Sometimes you hear research instead of research, data instead of data, schedule instead of more regional twists. It's not about one correct pronunciation. Filipino English is diverse, and so is American English. The point is the intention, to be understood instantly without friction. That intention is what audiences feel. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. The influence doesn't stop with broadcasters. When teams build AI voice systems intended for global users, voices that should feel approachable, friendly, and clear, they often design toward a neutral, balanced English that bridges Western and Asian sound patterns. The cadence many Filipinos use naturally fits that goal. So even when you hear an American-sounding AI reading the news, parts of that friendly, measured tone may be echoing choices influenced by the same clarity Filipinos practice every day. The model voice for billions can wear a surprisingly Filipino shape. That's a form of soft power, quiet, effective everywhere. Producers frequently ask for a balanced, neutral accent, not too British, not too regional, not too flat, just modern, global, and kind. Guess which voice checks those boxes? The Filipino approach to English. That's why more voice coaches across the US teach a neutral delivery that, intentionally or not, overlaps with Filipino English. Smooth pacing, light intonation, crisp articulation. It's the kind of voice that can deliver breaking news without panic, official statements without stiffness, and heartfelt stories without melodrama. There's also a new wave of Filipino journalists, producers, and on-air talent working in American newsrooms. Their success shows that clarity can beat accent bias. Audiences don't actually care where you're from if you deliver with honesty, emotion, and respect. Filipino anchors bring both authority and warmth, a combination that used to be treated as a contradiction. They've turned what some once dismissed as a foreign way of speaking into something admired, even emulated. That's a quiet revolution happening right under our noses. But why does Filipino English connect so well with people across the world? Because language isn't just about words, it's about energy. The Filipino way of speaking often carries respect. It's not rushed, not aggressive. It makes room for the listener. There's a natural empathy baked into the delivery that makes you feel at ease. When you hear it, you sense warmth, authenticity, and trust. And in an age when trust in media is shaky, that kind of voice doesn't just inform, it reassures. It says, "I'm here with you. Let's understand this together." That's why so many American creators, from YouTube to TikTok to independent documentaries, now collaborate with Filipino voice actors. They're discovering what call center executives realized years ago. The Filipino voice sells, not because it's flashy, but because it feels human. Viewers stay longer when the voice makes them feel understood. Brands notice, producers notice. And slowly, the speech habits that keep audiences listening start to become the norm across formats. From nightly news to explainer videos to the prompts you hear from your smart devices. This mirrors a bigger cultural shift. For decades, American English was treated as the default standard for global media. But globalization changed the rules. English is no longer owned by any one nation. It's a shared tool, and the Filipino version has proven to be one of the most effective adaptations of it. It bridges East and West while sounding natural to both. That's something few countries have achieved, and it has ripple effects in everything from international reporting to streaming platforms to the kind of voices chosen for global campaigns. Even Hollywood has noticed. For worldwide releases, some productions ask actors to soften regional edges and lean into international clarity, calm pacing, lighter intonation, friendlier articulation. If you listen closely, you'll hear patterns that feel Filipino, not a copy, but a cousin. A delivery that can travel from Los Angeles to Lagos to London without losing people along the way. In an attention economy, that's a superpower. Let's not forget education. Many American students, kids, college learners, even working professionals, take online English lessons with Filipino teachers. They pick up vocabulary, sure, but they also pick up the habits: clean consonants, steady pacing, respectful tone. Later, some of those learners enter journalism, media production, or voice work, carrying those habits into their scripts and broadcasts. That's how influence spreads, quietly from one conversation to another, until it becomes part of the mainstream soundscape without anyone being able to draw the exact line where it started. And there's something poetic about all of this. For so long, Filipinos were known for adapting to Western culture. Now, slowly and softly, the West is adapting to them. The way they speak, the tone they use, the respect they carry in their words. It's crossed oceans and entered microphones, control rooms, and studios across America. What began as an educational mission during colonial times has turned into a cultural comeback, not driven by politics, but by the pure skill of communication. Every time a news anchor delivers a headline with a measured, clear voice. Every time an AI assistant speaks in a tone that feels friendly and respectful. Every time a student practices pronunciation with a Filipino tutor. That influence grows stronger. It's subtle, but it's steady. And in media, steady wins. So the next time you turn on the TV and watch a breaking story from New York or Los Angeles, listen carefully. You might hear a rhythm that feels unexpectedly familiar. That gentle balance of authority and warmth. That's the Filipino approach to English, shaping delivery behind the scenes. The rise of Filipino English isn't just about accent, it's about identity. It shows that language evolves through empathy and connection. The Philippines didn't push their accent on the world came looking for it because it works. It builds bridges instead of walls. In a time when everything feels divided, something as simple as the way we speak can bring us closer together. The story of how newsrooms across America are using Filipino English isn't only about media. It's about how one nation gave the world a voice that feels universal. Clear enough for headlines, kind enough for hard days, and confident enough to carry the truth. The Philippines didn't need to shout to be heard. Their voice traveled naturally through kindness, hard work, and communication until it became part of global media forever. So when you hear an anchor speak clearly, warmly, and respectfully, remember this. There's a touch of the Philippines in that tone. A whisper of the islands in every word. Filipino English isn't just influencing news channels. It's redefining what good communication means in the 21st century. It proves that the world listens to voices that speak with heart, not just perfect grammar. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us, wherever we're from, however we sound. Your voice matters. It can shape conversations across borders, change the way the world listens, and remind us that language at its best isn't about sounding perfect. It's about connecting perfectly. If this story resonated with you, tap like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more documentaries on the hidden power of language, culture, and global connection. And tell us in the comments, which words do you think sound better in Filipino English, and why?